Hi, you've reached Feather and Veil. I'm glad you're here. If this content interests you, please hit like and subscribe. Today, I'm going to be discussing chapter 2 of my book, The Voice That Knew. Okay. When I was in elementary school, I had a hard time with reading. I would get the words mixed up. They would come out jumbled. They would come out backwards. So my teacher said, well, let's put her in this special reading class. It was known as chapter 1. They still might have it, I don't know. But I was in this class from elementary school all the way up through high school. Well, I met this girl. We're going to call her Kay. Well, Kay and I became very close. She was very special. We met in chapter 1. We would sit in recess together and talk and talk and talk and talk. Well, one day I was in math class, and if you understood my math teacher, you never asked to do anything or go anywhere. You just did your work and kept quiet, or you would get sent to the office and get a paddling. Well, one day I had this thought pressed into my mind that said, you need to go to the bathroom, you need to go to the bathroom. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't need to go to the bathroom. So I ignored it. That was the wrong thing to do, because that voice came harder and stronger and faster and said, you need to go to the bathroom now. And it scared me so much so, I stood up out of my seat and yelled, I need to go to the bathroom now. Well, my teacher didn't like that too well. She's like, sit down and wait till after class. And I'm sitting there, and that voice came again. You need to go now. Very firm this time. I couldn't ignore it. So I stood up and said, my belly hurts really bad. I got to go to the bathroom. And she seemed very annoyed. So she's like, okay, come get the hall pass and go. Just hurry back. As soon as my foot crossed that threshold, all I heard was hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. So I go to the bathroom. I open the door, and I hear this noise coming from the last stall. It was like metal clanging, just a rustling of clothing, just a weird noise. So I tiptoe over and look under the stall, and here it's my friend Kay. She's in a wheelchair, by the way. And all that noise was her wheelchair. I'm like, hey Kay, how you doing? What are you doing? I didn't hear nothing. Didn't hear a thing. She never responded, and she always responded when we chit-chatted, or, you know, little kids. Anytime you see each other, it's like, hey, how you doing? What are you doing? Well, I peeked through the little crack in the door, and I could see that she was slumped over, but she was shaking, just shaking. And that voice came again and says, you need to go to Mrs. M. She'll know what to do. She was the secretary. Well, the secretary was all the way at the doors where the opening was to the school. So I'm at the other end of the school. So I run to Mrs. M, and I said, Kay needs help, and she needs help now. She jumps up out of her chair, and we're running across the whole school. We're booking it back to the bathroom. We get in there. She's like, okay, you're going to have to crawl under and open the door. I can't get in because the door was locked. So I crawl under, and I open the door, and she pushes by me, lifts Kay's head up. Her eyes are like rolled back in her head. And Mrs. M turns to me and says, she's having a seizure. I need you to go to the kitchen now and get some syrup. Now, run, Cheryl, run. And I'm like, okay. So I go run to the kitchen, and the kitchen's door's shut. The little slider things are shut. So I'll go start pounding on the door. It's locked. I can't get in. I pound on the door, and this woman in white opens the door and says, "Yes, can I help you?" And I said, "Mrs. M needs syrup for K." She knew immediately what she needed. She turns around, grabs a bottle of pancake syrup, hands it to me, and I take it running right back to Mrs. M. I get back there. Mrs. M is still holding Kay's head because she's just shaking everywhere. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what a seizure was. I had no idea what was happening. And she says, "Cheryl, can you pour some into in the top and give it to me? I can't do it. I'm holding her head." So I'm like, okay. So I'm pouring it, and I'm just getting syrup all over the place because I'm nervous. I don't know what's happening. So I hand her the syrup in the little cap, and it goes everywhere. So I have to do it again. I do it again, and she's holding her head. She goes, "Now I need you to put it in her mouth. Pour it in her mouth." And I'm like, I'm scared to death. I don't know what is happening at this point. So I'm like, all right. So I just poured it in her mouth, and then she tells me, "Go tell Mrs. H to call 911. We need an ambulance now." So I'm like, I dropped the pancake syrup. It spilled all over the floor. So I run and go tell the principal, Mrs. H at the time, that we needed an ambulance for Kay. So she's on the phone. I run back to see what's going on, and at this point, by the time I get back, her shakiness has subsided some. She's still shaking, just not as bad. And I'm just standing there watching everything that's going on. And finally, the principal gets up there, and she escorts me out of the bathroom and says, "You need to go back to class. We got this. You need to go back to class." Well, I get back to class, and my math teacher is pissed. She's like, "Where have you been?" And I'm crying at this point because I don't know what's happening. I have no clue what's going on. So I'm crying, and she's mad at me. My teacher's yelling at me. So I'm just bawling. And you know, kids, they either clam up, or that fight or flight kicks in. Well, my flight kicked in. My fight was done. I wasn't fighting. I wasn't going to argue with this teacher. I was just crying and crying and crying. So there's a butterfly. It was a monarch. It was so pretty. Anyway, I'm crying and crying and crying, and she takes me outside the classroom, and she's like, "What's going on? What happened?" And she heard the commotion, and she's like, "Go sit down, go sit down." So I'm sitting there waiting, and she's gone in what seems like forever. And she comes back, and we go to our next class, and she keeps me behind to talk to me and explains to me that Kay has got a lot of problems. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I know. She always had this bag, and it was her urine bag, and that's what she was doing in the bathroom, was emptying her urine bag." That's all I knew. I knew that she was in a wheelchair, and I knew that she had a urine bag. That's it. I didn't know anything else. Well, she had low sugar. She said she was a diabetic. I had no clue what she meant. I was little. I don't know what diabetic meant. I didn't know what low sugar meant. I didn't know any of that. Well, a couple weeks go by, and I stopped by the office like every morning to ask Mrs. M when Kay was coming back, and she said she'll be in a hospital a while, but she will be back. Well, when Kay gets back, she's like, "Thank you for helping me. I'm so glad you heard me." And I was like, "Heard you? You were in the bathroom. What do you mean heard me?" She said, "Well, I was saying in my head, praying that I needed help, and I needed help from somebody, and I needed help now." And she said, "I'm just so glad you heard me." And I told her what happened, how I heard it. I said, "So was that you Or was that God? What was that? We didn't know at that age. We had no idea. So there was a higher power there coming through to help this girl that needed help. She has since passed on. Rest her soul. She has since passed on. But let me tell you something. That girl, I will never forget that moment, ever. Now that I'm older and I look back on it, I believe that that was Spirit working in those mysterious ways that Spirit works in, right? I don't know. I think about it and it's like, what would happen? What would have happened to her if I wouldn't have listened to that voice? What would have happened if I wouldn't have jumped out of my seat and lied to the teacher and said my belly hurt? I didn't know why I was going to the bathroom. I just knew I had to go. Like I said in the last video, I was not allowed to not listen to this voice. I was not allowed to not feel that feeling. She played more of a role than she ever knew. I'll never forget her. Ever. Well, I hope you enjoyed chapter 2. I blabbed pretty fast. Oh, yeah, I blabbed really fast. That came out pretty quick. Unlike my other ones where I have to look at my notes to see where I was at. I may have missed a few things here and there, but that basically sums up chapter 2. Please be gentle with your soul. Be kind to yourself and always trust in your light. Until next time, bye!